Friends, it is done. We have wrapped up another week in the market, and yes, my sweater is torn here, but it's my holiday dad sweater, and I love wearing this thing. So, I'm not falling on hard times. I've seen the comments. It's okay. We've had a good month here. Let's talk about what's going on with Palantir. Big Bear here. I mean, just unbelievable. Just a change. The last 2 weeks, especially this week in the market, have just been a complete turnaround with where things look like they were going. And so next week, obviously, looks like, pretty much it's a solid bet. It seems that we're going to get this rate cut. And two, from that, we could have two more big pops in the market this month. And I've said this, but you kind of need to know because it is pretty substantial news of what's coming here. One, obviously rate cut next week, but somewhere in the next time frame days, it could happen over this weekend, who knows, but I kind of hope it doesn't. I would like to see it happen during a Monday or a Friday, through a Monday-Friday situation when the market's open, and that is with Trump naming his next head chairman. So we know that supposedly is supposed to happen here in December. Whether it comes before Christmas, after Christmas, it's highly likely that it will come before Christmas, but we don't know. With that, I somewhat think either way, the people that were pretty confident Trump's going to pick, the market will run off that. That's why I'm saying it could be a pop in the market, because when Trump names this next person, it's almost as if Trump is almost in the Fed chair, because obviously, not to get politicky here, and just like bullet point this out real fast and I'll shut up about it, but it's so important, especially going into next year for you as an investor. This is a completely changed, this is going to be a different world going in 2026 with a Fed chairman that is going to do what Trump says, because we know Trump has wanted rate cuts, significant rate cuts. This has been going on before he even took the Oval Office again. So with that, I would highly expect this person is going to go for rate cuts. I would highly expect they're going to be a lot more optimistic and positive about the economy, about the future, everything. And, I think that's just the bare minimum of, the big changes we would see here. Jerome Powell, he served us, God love him, but, I think everyone's a little over the Eeyore mentality. He has served us well, but I think it's, whatever you think about rate cuts, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about rate cuts right now. I get it. I understand how they can lead to bad things, but I also understand how they lead to good things too. So it's an economical conversation that I am not, smart enough to have here. I just know as an investor, we're going to see pops off of every rate cut, and bank stocks are going to like it. So that's the best thing I can say about it. Friends, I really do hope you're doing well. I really do mean that. We're seeing a fight right now. Next week with rate cut coming, when we do see this actually happen, this might be the last bit of news that the market is wanting to see, to where it feels comfortable for one last initial big push. We still have Tom Lee pushing that. He's saying that the S&P 500 will push over 7,000 points here by the end of December. And honestly, he's projecting more than that. He's saying 7 plus. So, obviously, with that, if you think things are high right now and the market's been dragging, big, small, medium stocks, it's going to continue to drag everything with it. As we see, our three big markets, the NASDAQ, the Dow, and S&P 500 run up here, they're going to drag everything with them, undoubtedly here. So, this is great, and we might see this continue. Obviously, Netflix just bought Warner Brothers. This has been, talked about for quite a bit. We knew the bid was out there, and I think a lot of us pretty much knew this was going to happen because, let's be honest, Netflix is king of the castle at this point compared to anything else. And Paramount, they're doing good, but, kind of like, one thing, and this sounds silly, but I was like, I bet Netflix is going to win this bet because Paramount just spent tons of money on some other TV shows here this recent year, especially the South Park one. So I would imagine they only had so much money to bid. And I mean, this is a $83 billion deal. This is insane. So this will look pretty different. And, Netflix just had their stock split, that 10-to-1 split. So this will do good for future Netflix stocks holders, ETFs, everything that Netflix is a part of. And, I would expect this is going to be a substantial move into the future. So with that, friends, let's get right into Palantir Big Bear. And here we go. Talking about Palantir, this is so exciting, man. Listen, if you're in here wanting me to break down Palantir in some like bad conversation, I'm going to tell you this is not that. I am not the guy. I am completely drinking the juice over here in Palantir land. I've been here since the $7-10 days, and I am still here riding this. So right now we've had these significant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 climb ups, and there's probably some more in there you could argue, but just kind of making the argument. We've had these pillars here since the sell off of the market here 2 weeks ago to the market building back up here. Palantir fell to this 150 zone, and then we went from 150s, 160s, 170s. Now we're back up in this 180 zone. This has kind of been my conversation. This is nothing new. This is not like, I don't think a lot of people that if you've been here with Palantir maybe the last 6 months, 4 months even, or, at maybe some, few years here, but especially if you've gone through a Palantir journey here just since last year, I don't think anyone's looking at the stock right now going like, wow, this is really unusual behavior from Palantir. I'm really shocked about this. This is pretty much generic, same old kind of stuff we've seen here with Palantir. This is why I have been yelling from the rooftops here about Palantir, like, hey, I go, yeah, this is expensive. This is crazy. Like, it's this, man, this isn't me saying like, well, Palantir deserves to be $250. It's going to $250 because that's the right price action. It's quite opposite. I love Palantir. Maybe this is the most bearish thing I'll say about it, but yeah, it's trading over what it should. It's extremely expensive. It mathematically, all that kind of stuff. I get it, but it's still a very popular stock, and as much as the bears hate it, they can't trust it because you know why? They can't trust to hate it for too long because Palantir keeps getting deals. Palantir keeps annihilating quarterlies. Palantir, it just keeps doing well here, and it's, I believe that things happen in the market, every year, every block of years, and every decade in the market, you see just peculiar, unusual, new movements in companies, stocks. I mean, the case could be made for Nvidia, just the last 2 years, 5 years. I've said this time and time again, but, I remember 5-6 years ago where people, I remember watching someone, they made a video about Nvidia, and I watched it, and they said, if you buy Nvidia now, even at these prices where it's at, it's going to change your life. And it's not like Nvidia's been a bad stock to hold. Nvidia's had, great runs in the past. It's had prior stock splits. It's done things in the past here, but it's just the past, especially 2 years. I mean, things have been aggressively different here, but the past 5 years here, I guess we could say, they've been completely different. This went from a company making, 5, 10, over $10 billion quarterlies. And a lot of people at that point thought, well, there's no way Nvidia can, chips. Who's going to buy that many chips? This is ridiculous. It can't happen. This is not real. Well, Nvidia, the world has opened up here. Now, it's not just game systems that need these chips, but two, it's, and this is where the secondary market conversation comes up. And this is a very real conversation for Palantir that they could get involved in this too. But, now we're talking about quantum computing. Now we're talking about robotics. We're talking about the next levels of AI taking over. This is why I don't believe this bull crap about the AI bubble. Obviously the market will come to a point where it kind of cools down, but is that next month, 2 years from now? I don't know, but right now there's definitely no signs of that happening. So I don't have time for that conversation right now. We're too busy making money out here for that. Right now with Palantir, this is a conversation where, I go, we can watch things happen that are new in the market. We can watch stocks continue to rise in price. There's no reason why Palantir here could not run back to $200 here, maybe $210 even. Some numbers we had before the quarterly came out and, the whole Michael Burry thing. We could see Palantir run back up to these numbers, in December here. When we have, if we do, how big is the next run in the market? It's almost like everyone's expecting. And I think right now, everyone, I was literally talking to a friend today about this. I think everyone's just waiting for like the rate cut to happen. Maybe Trump announced this next, person to take the throne. And then the market's just going to go like, okay. And we're going to see the S&P 500 just run. It's just going to be like, oh my God, here it goes. Oh my God, here it goes. Now, obviously from that, there's going to be a huge sell-off going into January. People are going to take profit. People, it's the holidays, for God's sakes. People are going to be broke, so they're going to need some profit, capital. But with that, we're probably going to watch a lot of things run like crazy here. So as Palantir continues to push into, back up into these levels, by Q4, which is essentially around the quarter here with Palantir, imagine by January, Palantir is somewhere in this solid level of 190s to low 200s, okay, like 205, 210, okay, we'll just see that, and maybe it ran a little more in December here, but it, that's the sell-off, that's where it's kind of fallen here. That is crazy high. Now, the question is too, how much crazier does this get going into Q4, where Palantir repeats the process of what it's done in the past? This is why I say if you've been here with Palantir, you kind of know how things go at this point. Leading up to Q4, Palantir goes, okay, well, we're going to touch some numbers we haven't touched here before. So now we're talking about, can Palantir, before Q4 comes out here that we know is going to be good, can it touch 220, 230? I mean, I know these are huge numbers, but, at this point, I just don't get why people are like, Palantir can't hit that. Palantir can't do, This is why I brought up the Nvidia thing. And not that Palantir is going to be making Nvidia money, so save the comment. What I'm saying is that there's things that happen in the market all the time that just defy gravity with what people think should be in the market. This is why I say all the time, the market is ruthless. The market is unfair. A lot of times it doesn't have to make sense. There's plenty of companies right now that are making billion-dollar quarterlies and doing well, and they're not trading above $100. I mean, they're just not. So Palantir is still getting these government contracts, and now it's still, it's holding a lot of government contracts that it got this year, but it's still now pushing into this whole new, category of deals where it's working with just a lot of other AI companies, businesses. They just got that partnership with Boeing. I mean, what does this look like going into next year? And this is kind of a big of the, this is one part of the conversation here as we go into next year, and Palantir still holding all of these contracts, dragging them into 2026, and then Palantir starts capturing more deals. Well, this is where this Dan Ives conversation starts to show up thicker, where we start to talk about a future $1 trillion market cap, where we start to talk about, Q1, Q2 of next year. Are we looking at like 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 with one of those quarterlies? By this time next year, can Palantir get so ridiculous and capture so many more deals? Can we be talking about a $2 billion? And obviously I'm really pushing the narrative here. I'm really pushing this. I get it 100%. But this has already been a ridiculous situation. And I'm saying this as a fanboy here. But, I mean, I go like, we're not seeing it push back here, until we see Palantir kind of cool down here. And that's the thing, too. The bears are looking for any excuse right now. They're looking for any slight pushback in Palantir. And why shouldn't they? Palantir's done a lot of people dirty because a lot of people didn't believe in it. A lot of people are still sitting at like $70 like, It's no. I'm not buying it past this price. I'm not buying it. Okay, well, whatever. This is just kind of what we're looking at right now. But this goes into the AI conversation as well. Palantir right now is very much in the top leading with AI companies when it comes to conversation. Not that they're making the most money by any means, but generally speaking, when you get into a conversation with someone, generally one of the first AI companies, one of them that comes up here is going to be Palantir, because it's such a ridiculous, unique situation in the market and the company. I really wonder if we know what Palantir really is right now. Does that make sense? Is Palantir kind of the Terminator of the future? What is it right now? Is it just the Skynet company that is like all controlling and it's bringing in money that we can't even imagine? Are we looking at a future where even me saying, Palantir getting to a $2 billion quarterly here, is too much? Maybe it's not enough. I don't know. What does 5-10 years look like from now? Are we talking about stock splits in there? There's a lot to come here. This is why, like I said, I do not really push into this AI bubble conversation right now. I just don't. I just don't. I will when we start to see pullback. But I think, too, a lot of what the future is with the stock market, it's just AI companies. Like, what else is there? It's just tech. It's just, it just, all we're going to see from now on is mutation with tech. That's all it's going to be. 10 years from now, we're going to be investing in tech companies that we can't even imagine right now. I mean, I listened to, I'm going to be honest with you, in, whatever people think about this, I don't care. But, I had to listen to this because I'm trying to get information myself as an investor. But I listened to that recent Jensen interview he did on Joe Rogan because I wanted to hear more about Jensen and what his mind was. It was very interesting how he talked about AI. And it really helped me understand how all these big tech guys are viewing AI when they talk about it, and how it's this personal, essentially personal system for you. So it really makes you think, what does this look like? Even Elon recently talking about, how phones will work here very soon in the future. What is currency in the future? This is why I'm very obsessed with robotics right now. Why I'm so kind of bullish on rich tech that it's going to have a fighting chance here as it continues to go on. I think Palantir has a lot to do with that future. I really do. And I think they know that. A lot of being an investor is watching and listening. Every time I meet, a good investor, and I was so spoiled growing up because I had someone to watch in my own life. My grandfather was an investor, and I watched him watch the market. I watched him listen to people who were in the market and CEOs and stuff. And that's what I do, and that's where a lot of you can find golden nuggets in conversation. So I don't know, maybe that helps someone. I don't know, maybe that helps someone. So friends, I'm very bullish on Palantir here. I don't think it's a matter of you think Palantir will hit $200 again? Listen, like I said, I completely agree. Yes, it's expensive. This is ridiculous. I get it. But at this point, Palantir is just a runaway dog, and it's going to do what it wants to do. I mean, it's just going to... It's already touched 200. I mean, here's the obvious statement right here. It doesn't get much easier than this. People have already paid over $200 for Palantir. They've already paid like $208, $210. Okay, pre-market even more than that at that one particular day when they had the partnership with Nvidia. Okay, they'll pay for it again. They'll pay for it. So, and they're gonna, I think there's a very real conversation as long as Palantir continues to do what Palantir's been doing. I think by Q2, we're going to be well over $200. I mean, we're going to be like, oh man, the new low is like 205. Oh man, we sunk back down to 210. That's probably a conversation we're going to be having here. And like I said, for the person here screaming like, that's ridiculous, you're leading people astray. I get it's ridiculous. But ridiculousness will make you a lot of money in the market. It really will. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So talking about Big Bear, and obviously the market kind of sold down a little bit. It wasn't really a market, just, we saw a lot of things just kind of cool down today. But overall, we had a great week in the market. And Big Bear here, just completely devastated people that were not believing in it, because we went from a high five to breaking well over $7 here yesterday, December 4th. So it's been a phenomenal week for Big Bear. It really has. And I do think that I said this yesterday, but this is the God's honest truth, where Big Bear too is doing the same old moves, much like what I said about Palantir, where kind of the conversation will skeleton what we've seen here with Big Bear. Big Bear now has had these, 3 big walk-ups, going from this 5 to 6, 650, now pushing over 7 here. So with that, there is this wall that we keep hitting here with Big Bear. There's a wall we keep hitting, and that wall is around that $7.80, $8 range. Now we've had Big Bear at 10. That we've had it there, but that was a wham bam push right there. This more organic walk up situation that we've had here more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times already here this year with Big Bear. This is kind of where we always come to a point. So this particular time right now with Big Bear, I'm very curious to see where Big Bear can fight here. Can Big Bear, with the movement of the market next week, whatever the week after that looks like, whatever the market is going to give us here this week? I think, we're all at the mercy of the market. What's going to happen here? But Big Bear, I don't think it's ridiculous to say that, Big Bear can push well back up into a $7 range, $7.50, $7.80. But I am curious to see, once Big Bear, if it can get past $7 here with volume, everything coming in here, buys, how long can we hold 8? Can we hold more than that? It's a very, it's an interesting place to be right now with Big Bear. I think those are great numbers with Big Bear, but like I said, I think Big Bear is going to have to give a little more with investors for this thing to hold 7, 8, 9. It's going to have to. And I'll be completely honest with you, because I saw somebody ask this in the comments, and I want to be very careful how I say this. Whatever you want to do with Big Bear, you do it. If you're swing trading this, day trading it, or just buying it and holding it for whatever comes next year, completely understand it. But I will say this. Right now, here's where we're at with Big Bear. We're at the end of the year. Now, main thing, money, revenue. It's not where we wanted to be. Big Bear Q3, better than expected, because, I think a lot of us thought this could get worse, because I think a lot of us thought this could fall down into, the high 20s, like 29 million, 28 million. Thank God it didn't. So with that, they're still in the small bracket of small 30 million range with quarterlies. Now, Big Bear's had a tremendous year here with investment firms, banks. We just had the Swiss National Bank, purchase more, a big old block of shares. Yes, not yesterday, but essentially last week with Big Bear. And now it's publicly announced. With that too, we've had a lot of great deals, defense, everything, and that memo that came out with the third quarterlies where Kevin said, "Hey, we're not, things are going on. We're going to get more border. We're going to get a border security deal. We're looking at that. It's being talked about. Defense deals. Things are happening here. 2, 3, 4, wherever we're at right now is that they just spent all this money on Sage, the $250 million. And what I'm saying very carefully here is I saw some people comment like, if Big Bear went to $10, would you sell? Now, how I would answer that, it's kind of not fair for me to say this in a lot of ways, but here's kind of where I'm at with that. If Big Bear were to go to $9, $10, there is an amount I would sell a Big Bear. Okay. Now, why I say this isn't fair is because I've been here since $1, $2, buying Big Bear. Okay. Now that portion of Big Bear, I'm not getting rid of that. That's in the vault. That's going to stay there. But this other playground I have with Big Bear, where I've bought it and traded it over the past, year, months, just kind of swing trading it, because it's obvious what the stock's doing. It's still a very highly popular stock. It's very aggressive in movement here and there. Averaging around, anywhere from high $4 to $5, $6 range, wherever, you might find yourself. If Big Bear moves to $9, $10, I will sell that bundle of Big Bear shares, okay? But with that, I will wait for a rainy day, and I will allocate that money right back into Big Bear. Because as of right now, as much as I love Big Bear, here's where the hard, cold truth comes from. Big Bear needs more deals to really get these quarterlies a lot chunkier. I believe they're going to do it. And next, Big Bear really needs a golden goose deal. Now, I believe that golden goose deal has been somewhat told to us by Kevin in that memo. Okay, talking about board security deal, talking about defense deals. I think Big Bear knows something. I think there's a reason they just spent $250 million to make their software even better and, be a aggressor towards other companies. So that's kind of where I'm at with Big Bear. Okay, I just want to be completely honest with you with it. So, friends, listen, I want to wish everyone the best of luck. I really do mean that. We had a great week. I'm very excited about what's coming next week. This is a fun December. Usually December in the market is not that fun. Like, you have 2 good weeks and then everyone starts selling because they're trying to get their taxes in order. So this is going to be fun. This is pretty fun. I think everyone's having a good time right now. Friends, I will talk to you soon, and take care of yourself. Bye, everyone.